especially when the library is supposed to be the safe space in an emergency.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. So welcome everybody. To begin with, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands from which we all come today and where learning takes place across Australia. So I acknowledge the Bunurong and Wadawurrung peoples as the traditional owners on the lands of which Wyndham City operates. And I know the richness our Aboriginal community members bring to all our local government areas and that their learning has been passed across generations for thousands of years. So welcome everybody to this final Friday forum. So I'd like to hand over to Leonie to introduce our first special guest.
Thank you very much, Sharon, and I welcome everybody here today, and this is our final Friday forum, and I thank you for the work that you've done this year. I think we've had a tremendous year, and we look forward to continuing that discussion today, where I'm so pleased to introduce Joanne Lockwood, who is the coordinator, Ballarat Library and Learning. And I have a little bit of a conversation with Joanne, and I know that she's got a teaching background, and I know she brings a lot of this knowledge to the work, and she's going to talk about Ballarat's lifelong learning profile. And Ballarat is one of the fastest growing cities in regional Victoria, so we're very pleased to welcome you today, Joanne.
Thanks, Leonie. It's really nice to be here today, and it's been a really great 12 months in terms of me getting more involved in these broader learning networks and being able to learn from everyone else's experience. So it's nice to share what we're doing as well. A bit of reciprocity there. I'll just do a brief introduction to what my role is and what my background is, and then I'll talk a little bit about Ballarat and where we're heading in terms of embedding lifelong learning into as many aspects of our community as we can. So my role, as Leonie said, is coordinator Ballarat Library and Learning. That's a sort of two-pronged role. One is managing the Central Ballarat Library, which is our biggest library branch. We've got a small network of 3 libraries in Ballarat, as well as a outreach service. I'll go in a little bit more detail about what's happening at Ballarat Library a little later, but we are undergoing a big refurbishment, so that's a large part of what my current role is. The other aspect of my role is the learning portfolio. So I oversee all of our learning programs across the libraries, across all 3 branches in the outreach. And I also oversee partnerships related to learning within the City of Ballarat, that both internal and external partners, in order to embed learning into a broader variety of what we do as a council. My background, I've worked in libraries only for the last 5 or 6 years. I started that journey at Geelong Library and have been with Ballarat Library since about 3 months before COVID hit. So a pretty sort of turbulent time to come on board at Ballarat. And I've only had my portfolio, which is a new role, since, well, actually for about 12 months almost exactly. So learning was not a feature of any of the positions at the library until 12 months ago. Of course, we worked in learning and we provided lots of learning opportunities, but it wasn't formalised in any way until around 12 months ago when this position was created. Prior to coming into libraries, I have spent 13 years as a secondary school teacher and a small amount of time also teaching in primary schools. So I've got a background in education. I've also done a ridiculous number of years of tertiary education myself in a range of areas, both library and education related. So I feel like my entire life to this point has embodied lifelong learning, and for the foreseeable future, that I think is what will dominate my both my personal and professional life. So that's a little bit of background about me. I do have a little presentation I thought I would share, if that's okay, just to guide some of what I'm going to talk about. I've tried not to duplicate too much of what was in the profile, but to flesh out a little bit more of the things that we're doing and to give a little bit of background information. So if you can bear with me for a second while I figure out how to share this. Okay, can you see that? Excellent. Learning at the City of Ballarat, I'm going to talk about where we're at now and how we've got there, but also where we're going. And I think that's where most of the exciting stuff is coming. We've got a long journey ahead of us and lots of things that we can do along the way. I also included the image at the back, which is our heritage listed town hall building. This is one of many Gold Rush era buildings in Ballarat. It's also where my current pop-up library is. So it's got a special place in my heart at the moment. But I am very much looking forward to getting back into our much, much larger central library branch. A little bit of background about Ballarat. It's the second largest regional city in Victoria after Geelong. It's also a very fast growing area, particularly since COVID. We've got a strong tourism industry in Ballarat, mostly related to our heritage and the history of the Gold Rush era in Ballarat. That's what we're known for. That's what most people come for. They come to see Sovereign Hill and the Sturt Street streetscape, which has lots and lots of 1850s to 1880s heritage buildings on it. But then they discover that it's also a really vibrant regional town with lots of other industries, including a thriving food and entertainment industry, which has really developed in the last 10 years in particular. The City of Ballarat lies on the lands of the Wadawurrung and the Djadja people. The Wadawurrung people are the areas south of the Great Dividing Range, and most of Ballarat and Buninyong sit on that land, and that stretches all the way down to Geelong. The Djadja people are north of the Great Dividing Range and head into that area around Hepburn Shire. So we have two traditional owner groups that our library service collaborates with, and two lands that we operate on. In terms of the city, our current population is around 113,000. That's from the 2021 census. And our forecast growth is to reach 144,000 by 2036. There is some indication that this might be an underestimation and that COVID has fast-tracked growth in the city, with people moving away from metro areas into regional areas where they can work from home and commute just a couple of days a week. It's being about an hour on the train from Melbourne. It's sort of the limit of that commutable distance. So we are getting an increasing number of people that are moving into the area that are still working in Melbourne part-time and will work from home for the other part of the time. We've got a growing level of diversity in the region, with both increasing numbers of people identifying as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, but also we've got increasing numbers of people that have been born overseas. The most common language groups that we have now in Ballarat are Mandarin and Punjabi. We have a large Indian population that is growing quite steadily and are particularly visible in our Western Growth area. So services in that area are changing to accommodate those new population groups. A couple of other interesting facts about the demographics is we have an ageing population, which is quite common, but we also have one of the highest levels of lone person households in the state, and this is not well accommodated for with our housing stock. So we have a real disparity of 1 and 2 bedroom accommodation in Ballarat, with the majority of it being 3, 4 or 5 bedrooms. So we have quite a lot of typically older people living on their own in very large houses, simply because there isn't the option for them to downsize into smaller houses. And that seems to be a trend that will continue with the development of housing estates on the fringes of Ballarat, tending to be where housing growth is happening, and those also tend to be houses with 3, 4 or 5 bedrooms. So that has implications for older people in particular, and we can see that having impacts on things like not having public transport that services our city well, and increasing isolation. The other level of diversity in Ballarat is around socioeconomic status. So we have really high levels of inequality in Ballarat. We have pockets that of the town that are very highly advantaged communities with relatively high incomes, with stable housing and high levels of education. And then on the other side of the scale, we have pockets of extreme disadvantage. In fact, some of the most disadvantaged communities in the state can be found in Ballarat, in areas particularly like Wendouree West, Sebastopol and Delacombe, where we have high levels of unemployment, low levels of education, really poor health outcomes, and stats around things like school readiness are really significant in those pockets, which then has a flow-on effect to education outcomes for those families. We also note in those areas that we have very high levels of chronic illness. We have some of the highest levels of diabetes and asthma in the state as well, and they can be found particularly in those disadvantaged areas of the community. In terms of learning and education, formal education in particular in Ballarat, it's unique in some regards in terms of regional cities, in that we have a very high number of students attending private schools, private primary and private secondary schools. And in fact, we have 3 very large private schools that have borders, so people who live outside of our LGA sending their children to secondary school in Ballarat to board at those large, prestigious private schools. On the other side of that, we have a number of public schools that, as public schools are across the board, are fighting for funding in order to adequately serve the populations attending those schools. We also have, because we have large growth, we have schools that are ballooning. Primary school and secondary schools on the western zone of Ballarat are struggling to meet demand, and there will need to be some development in that, particularly in the high school area. We've had a number of new primary schools, but no additional secondary schools for a very long time, and that will need to change at some point in the future in order to accommodate the students coming in. We have Federation University, which used to be known as University of Ballarat. It became Federation University a number of years ago and has expanded into a number of other branches in regional areas around Victoria, including Horsham and in the Latrobe Valley as well. And we also have a campus of the Australian Catholic University. So we do have a large number of university students for a regional town. Most of those university students are studying things like teaching and nursing. And we also have Melbourne University have a regional medical campus here for their medical students studying at... Sorry, I've just been interrupted. I think she's very embarrassed now. Yeah, so medical students from Melbourne University coming to Ballarat to do their regional placements, and they do a number of courses through that very small university campus here as well. And then we have TAFEs and vocational learning centres attached to the universities as well. In terms of informal learning facilities, I've sort of separated these into a couple of categories. One are council-operated learning facilities. These include, but are probably not limited to, the libraries, which I've mentioned already. We have the 3 branches and the outreach service. The gallery, we have a very old art gallery in Ballarat that has a really unique collection. And we also have the Eureka Museum, which is a museum focused on the Eureka Stockade and democracy or the development of democracy in Australia. Together with those, we also have Sovereign Hill, which is affiliated with the council but not directly run by council, and they have a number of other arms of that, including the Gold Museum and the Centre for Lost Trades, which is an interesting place to learn all sorts of things like blacksmithing and all of those sort of trades that are not so common anymore. The town is also served by a network of 4 community houses. These are quite different from each other. One being very much focused on providing job-ready training and skills. 2 of the others are offering programs that are more hobby-based potentially, or in things like sustainable living. And the 3rd one, Wendouree Neighbourhood Centre, operates in our most disadvantaged suburb, and they're really all about trying to have positive impact on that community and lift them up through learning. So they provide a lot of adult literacy and adult numeracy programs through that course, and we have a very close relationship, the libraries, with that particular neighbourhood house, more so than the others. And then there's a range of other organisations like Youth3A, the Life Activities Group, and a whole range of other organisations that run various forms of learning programs. So in terms of where we're heading in council, the two areas that relate closely to learning that we're really looking at expanding in the next few years is the library service, and also a network of community hubs that will offer learning programs through them. And I've got a couple of photos that make us quite excited. These are architectural drawings. The top one is a snapshot of the refurbishment that's currently happening at Ballarat Library, the central branch which I manage. A couple of things that are going into that space that we've not had capacity for in the past are dedicated areas for people to work remotely and learn remotely. And we've got a new maker space which will include a range of creative technology. And we've also got some dedicated learning rooms where we can run small group courses. And as well as that, we have a community kitchen. So we're hoping to run things like cooking for young people as they move out of home, and also engaging with our older community members and encouraging healthy eating and learning about food and nutrition in that area as well. Considering the health outcomes in Ballarat, we're trying to diversify our programs to include a larger range of health literacy type events. We also have plans in place for a vastly expanded Wendouree Library. The current Wendouree Library, again, this is the library that serves our most disadvantaged community. It's very, very small. It operates from an old Blockbuster video store at the local shopping centre. It's difficult to find. It has very limited resources and no capacity for any large-scale programs or events. So we're hoping to get approval at some point in the next probably 5 years to build a new library in an area adjacent to that shopping centre. Or if that, the other alternate plan that is looking at is repurposing an existing council-owned building that we have in that area, which would prove a somewhat challenging building for a library, but would certainly be better than the one we are currently operating out of. Further into the future, there are also some plans for a new library in the Delacombe Western Growth area. This one already has some developer contribution put aside for it because of the nature of that part of town, developers having to contribute to community facilities, but that one's probably quite a ways off yet. And closer to the present, we have a network of community hubs that are opening, and they will be coming under the Libraries and Lifelong Learning umbrella as of January 2024. So we have an existing hub in Lucas, again, which is in that Western Growth area. That's co-located with a kindergarten and a child maternal health centre. Those co-location opportunities we find really valuable for providing learning opportunities for a cross-section of the community and engaging with people that won't necessarily walk into our other facilities. There's a brand new one that's nearly finished and is due to open for the start of the kinder year in 2024. Again, that's co-located with the maternal child health nurses. And in late 2024, fingers crossed, although the building works for that is a little delayed already, so I suspect that'll be pushed out. We should have a third community hub coming on board in Sebastopol, which is another very disadvantaged community, and that one will be co-located with the Senior Citizens Club. And then further into the future, there'll be a fourth community hub in Buninyong, which is a small township just outside of outside of Ballarat towards Geelong. The idea with the community hubs is that we will expand our learning programs into those areas, and we'll be able to do low cost rather than no cost learning programs from those. Our current policy with libraries is all programs have to be entirely free for the public, which limits what we're able to do. So by having the option of providing low cost learning opportunities, we can expand and bring expertise in that we don't currently have. The big focus for 2023 and will continue in 2024 was the partnerships or an expansion of partnerships, expanding learning programs by leveraging our local expertise. So rather than trying to run our programs all in-house, we've made a concerted effort over the last 12 months to seek out local experts on a range of areas to come in and speak to our community or to teach our community in various different areas. And we've had capacity to bring in experts from outside of our local area as well. We're focusing on partnerships, particularly to reach hard to reach community groups. The best example of that is the Wendouree Neighbourhood Centre, which has a very trusted relationship already with that community. And so we've been able to bring some of our programs to them. And once our new library is open, they will be bringing their community groups to us. We also have a great partnership with Ballarat Community Health and their Make a Change program, which is a program aimed at people who are disengaged from the community, who are returning to the community after a time in prison or in drug rehabilitation, that kind of thing. We have a terrific partnership with them where they come and visit our facilities once a quarter, and we run bespoke programs for them. Yeah, so the focus of what we're doing is to both bring community groups into our library that might need some support in order to walk through the door. A library or a community hub might not be a natural place for them to visit. And we've also tried taking our services out to the community. So we've been running lots of digital literacy programs out of the building in all sorts of different places. One example that we did just a couple of weeks ago was with a seniors group from one of the retired living facilities. We took a robotics and coding for seniors program out to them. They were quite hesitant, but ended up having a ball and just wanted more of that. So sometimes taking it to them is enough to break down that barrier. And then hopefully they'll come into us next time. A couple of examples of our internal networks, which we've developed over a long period of time and are continuing to develop. Probably our strongest partnership are with the Ageing Well team. So they service over 50s in the community, and our youth services program. We've been running for the last couple of years an intergenerational storytime program and a writing competition that tackles age discrimination. And we also work closely with Ageing Well in terms of digital literacy, because we know that cohort of people are most susceptible to things like online scams. So we're working hard to increase digital literacy and confidence in that cohort. Youth services, we've run a hugely successful popcorn program for the last couple of years, and we have in the past been co-located with youth services until the main branch closed for renovation. So we're hoping that they will bring their programs back into our spaces. The Eureka Centre, we often use their facility for as a larger venue, but we are looking at ways to collaborate more closely with them. And one of the examples that we had from this year was running referendum education programs supported by the Eureka Centre and the libraries, as well as a number of community groups and the universities as well. We've got the art gallery, children's and family services. We have a close relationship with. They run a program called Parent Place, which is an outreach service for to support new parents. So they co-locate with our library outreach branches, and we run early literacy programs, and they run the parent program side of things. The Sustainable Environment team, this is a fairly new relationship that has focused on learning programs around home sustainability and energy efficiency. And we've got a new thermal camera program operating with them that's been highly successful this year. And then a couple of the other ones, again, these are new. Customer service, they've been coming to some of our programs to highlight to the community how you can connect more directly with council. And also the emergency management team, we're running a new program with them called Get Techie, Get Ready, which is about using technology to prepare for emergencies. And then our network beyond the council, I've already spoken about the neighbourhood houses. They're a really important connection for us. We also have a council-wide agreement or collaborative network with the Western Bulldogs Football Club. So there's a range of programs that falls under that. One of them is called Bulldogs Reads, which is a school-age literacy program that has been hugely impactful for the children that are participating in that. This year we had 136 students who were all disengaged from reading or who had reading difficulties. The impact of that was that we had children improving their reading age by 4 years within a 12-month program. We had one school that went from all 22 students participating being below their age level for reading. At the end of the program, 100% of those students were at or above reading level. So that's a program that's 5 years old now and has been growing and getting better as we go. There's also other programs within that agreement with the Western Bulldogs Football Club that include a men's health initiative and now a new women's health initiative. We've worked with Services Victoria and Services Australia, particularly for people getting ready for retirement, to learn about what their options are and the sorts of things they need to consider in terms of financial literacy and their retirement. And at the other end of the scale, for young people that are leaving school and maybe moving out for the first time or getting employment for the first time, so that they understand what their tenancy rights are, what allowances that they might be able to access if they're studying and that sort of thing. Another long-term program that we've partnered with is the Clementi program. This is many years now in operation. It's a collaboration between Federation Uni, ACU, the Smith family, the Ballarat Foundation and the City of Ballarat. It's a program aimed at engaging individuals experiencing disadvantage with university level courses. They do those directly in the library. We provide the space, the technology, and some of the research assistance for them, and the university lecturers come and run those programs in the library. These are people that have not finished high school mostly, who would never consider themselves eligible for university study. They do it slowly and in a really supported, scaffolded environment, and the outcomes for those students have been hugely positive, with many of them going on to study at university level after the course. And then a couple of the other things, we've got a good connection with Be Connected and the Good Things Foundation, and have done for many years. The Brainery is a Geelong-based coding and robotics company that started to run programs. These are the guys that ran the coding and robotics for seniors just recently, but we've also had lots of coding and robotics for school-age children, and even down into the preschool age as well. Food is Free is a local food security community group, and they've started working with the Sebastopol Library in a community garden program, running workshops on home vegetable gardening, and all sorts of other things related to food security. Smart Living Ballarat are running sustainability education through the libraries. And then we've got Jobs Victoria, NBN Co, which are running monthly technology programs, and Ballarat Hackerspace, which is a fairly new partnership as well. And this is an area that we're moving more and more into, is providing learning opportunities for creative technology programs. So they have technology that will never be able to fit in our library, but we bring the audience, and they bring that expertise in laser cutting and soldering and all sorts of other things that we don't offer. And so that's sort of where we're at the moment. The successes we've had over the last couple of years are largely around diversifying our program. But we're at a stage now that we're ready to start formalising some of the work that we're doing more consciously. So from here, we'll continue to develop new partnerships, and we'll have greater capacity to do that with the new facilities that will be coming on board from early next year, including the community hubs and the new library refurbishment. They're both due to start in early 2024. We'll be formalising some of our internal and external learning networks. The work within council is probably further along the track than our external networks. We would like to develop a community-wide learning festival. Originally, this was planned for 2024, but things have got away from us in some respects, and the community hubs have been fast-tracked, so I suspect that will be put off until 2025, but we will begin working towards having some sort of annual celebration of learning within the city. We also really need to do at some point a needs analysis specifically on learning. We've done a lot of community engagement on related areas and have captured some data, but it's time to really do a learning focused needs analysis in the community so that we can target the right areas, both in terms of what learning programs we offer and to whom we offer them. And again, for 2024 and beyond, we'll be developing a learning framework to sit alongside our broader libraries and lifelong learning strategy. This one will be a more targeted, action-based framework than our strategy is able to do, and will also help to inform our next libraries and lifelong learning strategy. And then we've got the UNESCO Learning City. There's been some work done in this. Whether we go down that track, I'm not sure. I think that is largely dependent on how council is feeling, and that could change next year with council elections. So there's a question mark against that. But we're certainly doing the work now that would enable us to do that down the track. Whether we go ahead with that or not, I think the rest of the learning work that we're doing will continue on and will strengthen. And I do also think we'll have a restructure within the libraries and lifelong learning team to solidify learning more solidly in that team. That brings me to the end.
Oh, thank you very much, Joanne. That was very, very comprehensive, and I'm just really surprised at the amount of work you're doing. You must have an enormous team, but probably not, knowing the lifelong learning area. And it reminded me of growing up in a rural area, and actually I was sent to boarding school too, into our local regional city. So I think you must cater for a lot of rural students as well.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Okay, well, I think we can stop the recording there, Sharon. And now we'll have time for questions. So Sharon will stop the recording.